Good morning, FedPhoenix fam. So, as y'all see, I got on my FedPhoenix hoodie. Get you some merch line. Link is in the comments or in the description of the video. Anyway, so I was thinking about something this morning I wanted to share with you guys because I think it applies to reentry and to a lot of things. And I'm gonna call this the new knees. So, I'm gonna tell y'all a little story that's not prison related, but I think worth telling and certainly prison relevant. So, years ago, I got bad knees, right? Like no cartilage in the knees. It's a mess. So, I get injections in my knees. I get gel injected into my knees periodically, so my knees aren't always hurting and, I can get around better and stuff. So, years ago, um, before I had ever, when I first got the first set of knee injections, right? So I'd spent years with chronic knee pain, inflammation, a lot of days to some degree, it hurt to walk, that kind of thing. It almost makes you feel like a prisoner in your own body when you have mobility issues. And as a person with chronic knee and back issues, I can tell you there are definitely some dark times with that. Although, in the free world with access to spine and knee injections, I do just fine. Certainly in prison, when I didn't have knee or spine injections for 16 months for my entire stay, by the time I left, I was in so much constant chronic pain that any position my body was in, other than just laying flat on my bunk or on my side, was incredibly painful. Like functioning was difficult, but neither here nor there. So years ago, when I first got the knee injections, right? I get the knee injections. And of course, I'm thinking needles in the kneecap, which is why I put it off for years. So I'm like, whew, that's pretty heavy stuff, right? So I go and I get them. And, I'm kind of sore and they feel a little better, but it's different, And the next morning, I felt like Forrest Gump when he ran out of his leg braces. For the first time in years, my knees didn't hurt. Like it did not hurt at all to walk, to go up and down my steps. I woke up in the morning with no knee pain. It was incredible. So I'm excited, right? Because, I've gotten a little plump, a little rotund over the years. So I put on my Saucony's and I put on a t-shirt and some sweatpants and I decide, today's the day, right? Because I got the good knees now, So I'm going to go start jogging again. I used to jog in my teens and my 20s. I'm going to go for a run. It used to clear my mind. And I go out on my front porch and I'm so excited. So I'm doing all these really kind of obnoxiously elaborate stretches on my porch. I want the neighbors to see me, right? I want my neighbors to see that I'm Audrey with the good knees. Audrey's my government name, my legal name, by the way. But, I'm Audrey with the good knees, And, they're going to see me just, galloping through the neighborhood, like a stallion, right? So I do these stretches and I'm getting a little bit of a crowd of the other porch sitters because this was warmer weather. And I'm a person like, so when I have a porch, I like to hang out on my porch. And, I lived in a neighborhood where a lot of people hung out on their porch. And so I'm doing my stretches and, I'm ready. I'm going to get it. So I go down my porch steps. I get on the sidewalk, right? It's like Rocky now, right? I feel like Rocky. It's like dun 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 dun. Like do 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 do. Like it's time for me to just really. It's my time to shine. I'm about to start jogging. I'm gonna jog every day, maybe several times a day. In 6 months, I'll be in the best shape of my life. This is what I was thinking at the time. So, and of course, every neighbor that even looks out their window, I'm smiling and waving at, almost inadvertently inviting them to what I thought was going to be this display of athleticism and ended up being something very different. So I'm on the sidewalk and I'm ready and I done did my stretches and I got on my jogging attire, like this is time to get athletic. And I take off. I got good pace going for about the length of 3 houses. By the time I reached the end of the block, I couldn't breathe. I think I pulled a hamstring. My one leg started cramping up and I was out of breath. And I had no choice at that point. I tried to just kind of stand still for a minute, catch my breath because I didn't know what was happening, but this wasn't what I remembered from when I used to jog. I never had this incident in my 20s. And And I try to just kind of regain my composure, at the corner. But I was and my leg kept cramping. I'm like, son of a. So then I'm just like, heck with it. And I just sit on the sidewalk and I'm rubbing my leg and I'm trying to catch my breath. And one of my older neighbors comes over and brings me a bottle of water and says, "Are you okay, hon? Do you need me to call an ambulance?" And I look around. All the neighbors that I had rather arrogantly, naively invited to the show or on their porches, and many of them are kind of looking, or they're kind of looking at me and then looking away and then looking back, and they're trying to look like they're not looking, right? And of course, it adds to the crap show that my elderly neighbor just brought me a bottle of water and is offering to call me an ambulance. And I tell this story because the new knees, the good knees, right? It's really a dream. Sometimes we sell ourselves a little bit, get a little too excited about, set ourselves up for disappointment. I have, as many of you know, I have an adult daughter and a 7-year-old son. And when my adult daughter was a child, there's like a 14-year gap between my kids. So they are almost catching me at different lifetimes. We would race and I would chase her around the park for hours and, I'm a monster, I'm gonna get you, I don't really do that so much with my son. It's more kind of a slow pace walk around the park, including several breaks sitting on a bench. Occasionally I get on the swings, I cheer him on. Oh, good job climbing that, the spaceship. And sometimes I tell my son, because he's aware of bad knees, because I guess when you have a mother my age and you're his age, it's something worth notating. So sometimes he'll say, "Oh, I'm going to race you, and I'll go, well, you're probably going to win." And he'll say, "Yeah, I know, Mommy, because you got the bad knees." And I'll say, That's right. In about 15 years, I'm going to get the new knees, and then I'm outrun everybody. And so, and sometimes he'll reference the new knees. He'll say, "Oh, yeah. So when you get the new knees, can we go do this or that or some other crazy athletic thing that's just completely beyond reality?" And I usually say, "Absolutely." And I think when we come home from prison, we get our new knees, or we think we have our new knees. Now, what failed to be taken into consideration when I got the knee injections was the fact that I was, 15, 20 years older than I was when I used to jog. Very different BMI, very different percentage of muscle mass, very different percentage of body weight. I was also a smoker and had been for 15, 20 more years than I was when I used to jog. I didn't really take these things into much consideration. I just thought my knees don't hurt. And so I am about to be out here like Muhammad Ali before he fought Foreman, right? And that just wasn't realistic. And I think a lot of times when we come home from prison, we feel like when we leave prison, we got the new knees, right? Because now we have control over our lives. Now we can make decisions for ourselves. Now we get to be adults again. Now we have access to our loved ones. Now we have access to medical care. Now we have access to better psychiatric care, some psychiatric care. A lot of us incarcerated really didn't even have access to that. And so you get out and you want to just hit the ground running, right? And you make it a few metaphorical house links, a couple big strides. As soon as you get home, bam, got a job within a few days. And bam, you got your cell phone. And oh, man, And by the time you reach the end of the metaphorical block, your leg is cramping, you're winded, and people are offering you emergency medical services. And there's like that crashing, that kind of, your expectations weren't very realistic. And so you suddenly feel like you failed. You feel disappointed. And I know a lot of people go through this. And so take it in stride. If you're the person who's coming home from prison, take it in stride. You might not have knee pain, but having new knees changes nothing else about your situation, metaphorically. So when you come home, pace yourself. If you're the loved one of a person who's coming home, understand that their expectations for themselves, most likely, are unrealistically high. Their timeline in their head of how they're going to accomplish and achieve things is probably the bar is probably set at an unrealistic level. And what this means is once that initial adrenaline or dopamine of just being in the free world and all that comes with that wears off, they're probably going to have some lows, a lot of lows, where they feel they've disappointed themselves. Maybe they feel they've disappointed their loved ones, their friends, their family. Maybe they think that, that they've changed since prison, which they have. Everyone does, in a way that they're just not good enough anymore. They're not as capable as they once were. And be prepared for that, and it's good to encourage someone, to ask them how they're doing, or say, hey, the whatever down the road is hiring, or hey, you're looking great. But you don't want to do a whole lot of badgering with the questioning them where they're at on milestones. Let them, trust me, if they're doing good, they're going to tell you about it because they're going to be excited. If they're not telling you about it, then they have some reservations. They have some fears, some concerns, some insecurities. And asking them a lot of questions about that, or really badgering on that, is really detrimental to their morale and their mind state, and them being successful in their reentry, and that going well, and them maintaining their freedom. And it's crazy. Even when I got to prison, I had a new knee situation, right? Because when I got to prison, I thought, I'm only going to be here 6 months, because that's how long I should have been there. In 6 months, I'm going to start doing some light walking, make it a regular part of my day. I'm going to eat healthier. I'm going to grow my hair out. I'm going to do all these things. And when I come home, I'm going to be like the Beyonce version of myself, right? I'm going to look at it like 6 months in a training camp. I'm going to grow my hair out, and I'm going to learn how to do makeup better, because I'm really a novice at a lot of the extreme feminine arts, including makeup. I'm going to be in much better shape. And when I come home, people are going to be like, wow, was that you? Oh, you look great. And a lot of people told me going into prison, oh, you're going to come out the best shape of your life. So I was happy to buy that bag of goods, because it created a silver lining. And when I got to prison, I was in a quarantine unit for months with other women, and they just kept piling them in. People around me were literally dying from COVID and lack of medical care. We didn't get to go outside for those months, other than to go across the yard for pill call. And I wasn't even getting any pills, but trust and believe, I was going across the yard, asking about prescriptions I knew they weren't going to give me 3 times a day, just to get outside and feel the sun on my face and get some fresh air. I didn't foresee the psychological, difficulties I would face incarcerated, and the emotional difficulties. And all that hit me like a brick wall, because I went in with this go-getter attitude. Oh, and I was going to become fluent in Spanish, or maybe become a novice in some Oriental language as well, because I knew there would be a lot of people in federal prison who spoke Spanish as well as Arabic, and maybe Mandarin or Chinese. I'm going to tell you how many of those things I accomplished in 16 months. 0. And that's okay, because I definitely, after really struggling the first few months, wrapping my head around things and adjusting and all that, I really got to a point where I decided, if I want to make fitness goals, if I want to make reading goals, I'm going to do 4 books a week or whatever goals I want to make for myself in here, really to pass the time more than anything, and preferably goals that have some angle of self-improvement or growth in them. If I hit those goals, wonderful. If I don't, it doesn't matter, because it kept me distracted while I was working on it. And the end game here is to just do your time the best you can and keep it pushing. So if you make goals for yourself and they don't pan out, that's okay. Move on. It served its purpose. It helped you pass some time. And when you're in the free world, time is passing you. You pass time in prison, and in the real world, time passes you. And that's a really crazy but true concept. It's nuts. In there, a week felt like months. A lot of times felt like just dragging out, never ending. Out here, a week is gone in the blink of an eye. A month in the blink of an eye. I've been home almost 10 months, and it feels like I've been home 3 months. Although I think I've accomplished, what one should in the respective time frame. But the time goes so quick, and it's such a crazy adjustment. And it's not only adjustment coming out of prison, but it's adjustment going into prison. Just the whole concept of time thing, and going from a situation of deprivation and lack of option in all aspects of your life to a situation of just excess and overwhelming options as the world is flying by at a light speed. This is not a natural transition. It is not natural for people to go from these extremes. And, and if you're a person with a short sentence, right? The albatross to that is you're going from fast-paced free world to mundane, mind-numbing incarceration, and then back to fast-paced free world. So fast that you may not even have time to properly transition through these different things, situations. And if you're a person with a long time, the albatross to that is once you've transitioned to being incarcerated, once you've allowed yourself to become institutionalized as a means of survival, and you've done that for a long time, that's become your norm. Coming home in a world that's changed in ways you can't even imagine because you've been away from it for so long, and trying to transition back to who you were pre-incarceration, fast-paced, 100 changes, technological, social, and making these transitions into the free world, particularly, while also trying to reconnect with friends and family, while trying to build ties, while trying to create at least a facade of normalcy, while trying to be what you feel is expected of you to be by your loved ones, by yourself, by your probation officer, by your judge. It's really overwhelming. And I know a lot of the people I talk to who have loved ones who are incarcerated certainly have this mind state that when this person comes home, it'll be like they never left. They'll be the same person they were. And, in the blink of an eye, they'll be back in the same line of work or a different line of work, but they'll be back to working full time, and they'll be back to being that funny guy at the barbecue, or that fun aunt or aunt or grandma or sister or mother or whatever who was hosting family get-togethers and managing the carpool. It's not realistic. We all got to do things at our own pace. They say that it's better to bend, that the tree that's able to bend survives the storm. The one that isn't gets broke by it. So, don't let it break you. Don't let going into prison break you. Don't let coming home break you. Be willing to bend. Show yourself the mercy that you would show the person you love the most in the world. And for those on the outside of this, the loved ones, you really need to be conscientious of what your loved one has went through. And chances are they've downplayed and sugarcoated every aspect of their experience because they want to spare you what they have been through, what they've known, the suffering that they went through. And keep that in mind. So just because, a person goes through this and seems to be relatively unscathed or okay, doesn't mean that they are. And you need to really take that into consideration. So anywho, so I guess this is about life and transitions and not putting unrealistic expectations on yourself and showing yourself mercy. And not putting unrealistic expectations on other people and showing them mercy. Because no matter how well or how poorly a person is doing as they go to prison, when they come home from prison, as the loved one of a person in this journey, no matter how well any of these people are doing, first off, how well things appear on the surface isn't necessarily a true reflection of what's going on beneath the surface. I mean, we need to keep that obviously in mind. But no matter how well a person seems to be doing, that doesn't mean that there aren't struggles and difficulties that they're just really good at covering up. So, I think that we almost need to assume that those struggles and difficulties are under the surface and act accordingly or treat a person accordingly, rather than say, well, it doesn't appear there's a problem, so I'm just going to assume there's no problem. No, it doesn't appear there's a problem, but I'm going to assume there's, and I don't want to say a problem, but definitely, there's going to be some difficulties. And that's okay. That's normal. It is to go through the experience as a human being, all the stress that comes with pre-incarceration and then incarceration, right? And then back out into the free world. Those type of transitions are not natural. They're not normal. They're not healthy. And our brains weren't designed to deal with that crap. but we do, and we have to. And that's it. Just, I don't even want to say it's okay, because it's not in some ways, but it is what it is. But don't be like me. Don't think you got the new knees and, think you look like Muhammad Ali and really end up looking like Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump actually, by light years, outshined me, by the way, on that jog up the block, the attempted jog up the block. So, and it's like that, I think, with transitioning too. If you go into prison with unrealistic expectations for what you're going to achieve or accomplish, you might pull a hammy. You know what I mean? You might really handicap yourself, but by just setting the bar way too high, unrealistically high. And it's the same mostly for when people come home. People set the bar unrealistically high. Since I've been home in almost 10 months, I'm back to being a full-time stay-at-home mom. That happened immediately when I came out of prison. I have my own place, got that a couple months after I came home. I have my little truck, it's nothing too exciting, but it gets us from A to B. I pay my bills. In many ways, in the last 10 months, I've gotten my life to something similar to what it was before my door got kicked in. But I also know that in many ways, it'll never be what it was. And that's okay, because what has happened, and it has had an impact on my life and the lives of those I love. And there's no undoing that. And it's not about getting back to normal. It's about developing our new normal. And by developing, I mean, creating and improving wherever we can as we go along on this journey. So whatever you're going through, whether it is literal new knees, figurative, metaphoric new knees, or whatever it is, whatever you're going through in life, just know that it is a slice of your life. You will get through it because you have to. I'm confident in that. And if you're watching this video, everything that life is thrown at you, you made it through. So I have faith that you can stay the course. So if you'd like to donate to the channel, my Cash App and PayPal will be in the description, as always. And as always, so will my email if you need to contact me for any reason. And I want to say a large part of getting through your federal nightmare, or your loved one's federal nightmare, really is your mind state. It really is keeping on the forefront that every ugliness is temporary. It really, that's so vital to this not breaking you. But yeah. And also there'll be a link to the merch line if you want to get your own FedPhoenix hoodie or t-shirt or coffee cup. Of course, any support is greatly appreciated. And ow, the cat just bit my foot. And as y'all know, I'm working on my first book, and I intend to have that published late summer, early fall of this year. And I will keep y'all updated on that. If you like the video, feel free to share. And also, if you are willing to, I guess if you wanted to, I don't know, if you're wanting to, whatever, subscribe, please do. I would definitely like to really see this grow. And I think the FedPhoenix fam, which is you and me, community certainly is one that provides benefit to many people. And I want to see it grow and become something bigger. And I know that together we can make that happen. So, and subscribing is a great way to contribute to that growth. So, having said all that, good day. God bless.